Hey, it is Tuesday, March 24. That means we're diving into Matthew. Here we go. 9 today. I hope you're all doing well. There's a lot going on in our world today. As you know, here in Michigan, we have our stay-at-home orders. I did some research. I can still run over here quickly to do my little video. So I'll still be shooting my videos here at church most likely, though. You may get a few views from the parsonage as well. But because we're staying home, grab some coffee, a blanket, because it's story time. Here we go, Matthew 9. Let's do it. And getting into a boat, Jesus crossed over and came to his own city. Behold, some people brought to him a paralytic. He was lying on a bed, and when Jesus saw their faith, he said to the paralytic, "Take heart, my son. Your sins are forgiven." And behold, some of the scribes said to themselves, "This man is blaspheming." But Jesus, knowing their thoughts, he's Jesus, he said, "Why do you think evil in your hearts? For which is easier to say, 'Your sins are forgiven,' or to say, 'Rise and walk'? But that you may know that the Son of Man has authority on earth to forgive sins." He then said to the paralytic, "Rise, pick up your bed and go home." And he rose, and he went home. When the crowd saw it, they were afraid. And they glorified God, who had given such authority to men. As Jesus passed on from there, he saw a man called Matthew sitting at the tax booth, and he said to him, "Follow me." And he rose and followed him. And as Jesus was reclining at table in the house, behold, many tax collectors and sinners came and were reclining with Jesus and his disciples. And when the Pharisees saw this, they said to his disciples, "Why does your teacher eat with tax collectors and sinners?" But when they heard it, he said, "Those who are well have no need of a physician, but those who are sick. Go and learn what this means. I desire mercy and not sacrifice, for I came not to call the righteous, but sinners." Then the disciples of John came to him, saying, "Why do we and the Pharisees fast, but your disciples do not fast?" And Jesus said to them, "Can the wedding guests mourn as long as the bridegroom is with them? The days will come when the bridegroom is taken away from them, and then they will fast. No one puts a piece of unshrunk cloth on an old garment, for the patch tears away from the garment, and a worse tear is made. Neither is new wine put into old wineskins. If it is, the skins burst, and the wine is spilled, and the skins are destroyed. But new wine is put into fresh wineskins, and so both are preserved." While he was saying these things to them, behold, a ruler came in and knelt before him, saying, "My daughter has just died. But come and lay your hand on her, she will live." And Jesus rose and followed him with his disciples. And behold, a woman who had suffered from a discharge of blood for 12 years came up behind him and touched the fringe of his garment. For she said to herself, "If I only touch his garment, I will be made well." So Jesus turned, and seeing her, he said, "Take heart, daughter, your faith has made you well." And instantly the woman was made well. And when Jesus came to the ruler's house, remember him, and saw the flute players and the crowds making a commotion, he said, "Go away. The girl is not dead, but sleeping." And they laughed at him. But when the crowd had been put outside, he went in, took her by the hand, and the girl arose. And the report of this went through all the district. And as Jesus passed on from there, 2 blind men followed him, crying aloud, "Have mercy on us, Son of David." When he entered the house, the blind men came to him, and Jesus said to them, "Do you believe that I am able to do this?" They said to him, "Yes, Lord." So then he touched their eyes, saying, "According to your faith, be it done to you." And their eyes were opened, and Jesus sternly warned them, "See that no one knows about it." But they went away and spread his fame through all that district. As they were going away, behold, a demon-oppressed man who was mute was brought to him. And when the demon had been cast out, the mute man spoke. The crowds marveled, saying, "Never was anything like this seen in Israel." But the Pharisees said, he casts out demons by the prince of demons. And Jesus went throughout all the cities and villages, teaching in their synagogues and proclaiming the gospel of the kingdom and healing every disease and every affliction. When he saw the crowds, he had compassion for them because they were harassed and helpless. They were like sheep without a shepherd. Then he said to his disciples, the harvest is plentiful, the laborers are few. Therefore, pray earnestly to the Lord of the harvest to send out laborers into his harvest. That's Matthew 9, friends. Action-packed, right? I mean, I'm pretty sure he said behold, like, I don't know, like 10 times, 5 times. It was a lot of beholds. And behold, it's kind of this word that says, behold, oh, suddenly something new is happening. And behold, this thing is now happening. And behold, now this thing is happening. It's an action word, and it keeps the pace moving. The cool thing with this chapter is that it's all these little kind of tableaus of Jesus doing these miraculous things. And we know this is just a glimpse of what Jesus does, right? This is just kind of almost like a day in the life of Jesus, if you were, to see how his ministry was, how frenetic it was, how much he did in that time, and how amazing it was. So I really love the first encounter that Jesus, he heals this paralytic because of their friend's faith. Did you catch that? I think that's amazing that we see this elsewhere in the Bible too, how neat it is that Jesus can and he does bless others through our faith. That's powerful. And then the next story, when Jesus calls Matthew, this is the very Matthew that we believe is the author of this gospel, that God worked through him to write this true account of Jesus' life. And I think I get the feeling Matthew's a pretty humble guy through this telling. I mean, this is the story of the single greatest thing to have ever happened to Matthew, to his life. And it's just 2 sentences long. As Jesus passed on from there, he saw a man called Matthew sitting at the tax booth, and he said to him, follow me. So he rose and followed him. That's it? That's all you got, Matthew? It's a little more humble, I think, than John, who doesn't seem as humble in his book. But that's okay. We can talk about that another time. In a way, though, I do find this encouraging. See, a lot of times you and I may get worried about our own testimony of how we came to follow Jesus, thinking that's supposed to be this dramatic story, you know, like a really big story with all these major things happening. But for many of us, it's more of a gradual coming to learn about God and coming to feel God, and then a growing desire to follow God and giving our lives to him. It almost feels ordinary, right? But we also know there's truly nothing ordinary about being rescued from death and called into abundant and purposeful life. So it's my prayer, it's my hope that you never view your own story as ordinary. It is absolutely worth telling because it's a story about what God has done, not the drama within our lives. So Jesus, he also gives us the reminder, he didn't come for the healthy, he came for the sick. He came and he cares for the sinners, the hurt, the broken, the lost. He came for you and for me. And then we have these amazing stories of Jesus healing a woman who's been suffering for 12 years. He raises a girl from the dead. He heals 2 blind men. And the amazing thing with each of these stories is that Jesus points to their faith as being the cause for them being made well. Our small acts of faith open the pathway for God to do the mighty. He can, of course, do anything he desires. He is God. He is all-powerful. He has complete control over all things. But what does he desire but our faith response? And then he will bless us through that. Finally, I love the image at the very end. Jesus stepping back, observing the crowds, and having compassion for his flock. It's a beautiful image. And yet, then it ends with a harsh truth, where he says that many are ready to receive the good news of Jesus, but there are not enough people to share that good news. So he asks his disciples, he asks us to pray for more to rise up. That is our prayer. That is our prayer, that more would rise up and come to know Jesus, the love we have in Jesus, and then share that love with others. So, as we wrap up, here's a few questions for you to consider. Reflect back on your own life and how you came to know Jesus, or perhaps how you are currently coming to know Jesus. What about your story stands out to you when you consider it in comparison to Matthew's story? Next question. Who has God placed in your life that you believe is ready to receive the good news of Jesus? Perhaps consider sending them one of these videos or one of the messages. Invite them to like our Facebook page. Reach out to them in some meaningful way while they are sequestered at home. And I trust that God will work through that. And the third question, it's a simple one, but we're reminded of the power of gratitude. So I want to ask you, what are you thankful for today? What are you grateful for today in this new season of your life? I've enjoyed spending this time with you. Tomorrow, Matthew 10, kind of a new little section of the gospel. It's going to be good. So have a great rest of the day. Bye, friends.